The massive Nexian warship, Eternal Dominion, hung against the backdrop of distant stars, its crystal and hull refracting light in impossible patterns. Fleet Admiral Jorek stood at its command center, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the holographic display of his fleet, 100 ships, each carrying enough firepower to reduce a small moon to atoms, arranged in the legendary Narian battle formation known as the Spear of Dawn. Status report, Jorex commanded, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. High Commander Krell stepped forward, his ceremonial armor clicking softly against the polished floor. The human colony world lies just beyond the Arcturus belt, Admiral. Our sensors detect minimal defensive installations. They appear primitive. Jorex's mouth curved into what his species considered a smile, though it would have terrified most humanoid races. The Nexian Empire had spent centuries expanding through the galaxy, incorporating or subjugating lesser species into their perfect order. These humans, barely 3 centuries into their spacefaring age, would be no different. Launch the first wave, he ordered. Standard subjugation protocol. Before Krell could relay the command, a junior sensor officer's voice cut through the command center. Admiral. Anomalous readings at coordinates 227 Mark 43. The holographic display flickered, showing a patch of seemingly empty space. Jorex's 4 eyes narrowed. Magnify. The image zoomed in, revealing nothing, just empty space. Yet the sensor readings insisted something was there, something that didn't reflect light quite right, like a shadow cast by an invisible object. Impossible, Krell muttered, his scales shifting color with anxiety. Our sensors are the most advanced in known space. Nothing can. The empty space moved. Where there was nothing, suddenly there was everything. A ship materialized, but not in the flash of a deactivating cloaking device or the blur of faster-than-light travel. It simply was. Sleek, midnight black, with lines that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible weapons, no engine ports, no traditional ship architecture at all, just smooth, perfect darkness shaped into a vessel. I am Commander Doya Nash of the Earth vessel Phantom Dawn, a calm, almost amused voice transmitted across all frequencies. You've entered restricted space. The next 15 minutes will be very educational for you. Jorex's scales flushed with anger. One ship. They dare challenge the might of the Narian Empire with a single vessel. He turned to his weapons officer. Target. There, sir, the sensor officer interrupted again, panic evident in his voice. The human ship, it's multiplying. The holographic display told an impossible story. Where there had been one black ship, there were now dozens, then hundreds, each identical to the first, each moving with the same impossible grace. They flowed through space like liquid shadow, surrounding the Narian fleet in a perfect sphere of darkness. A trick. Jorex snarled. Holograms. Target the original vessel's last known position, full barrage. The Eternal Dominion's weapon banks hummed to life, charging enough energy to vaporize a small city. But before they could fire, something even more impossible happened. Space itself seemed to hiccup, there was no other word for it. Reality flickered like a display screen with bad reception, and when it stabilized, 20 Narian ships were simply gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, just absent, as if they had never existed. What manner of weapons are these? Krell whispered, his ceremonial armor suddenly feeling very inadequate. Not weapons, High Commander, Commander Nash's voice returned, still carrying that edge of amusement. Tools. You see, while your civilization was mastering bigger guns and stronger shields, we took a different approach. Why build better weapons when you can simply rewrite the rules of engagement? As if to demonstrate her point, another flicker of reality occurred. This time, when space normalized, 30 more Nexian ships remained intact but completely powerless, their crystal hulls dark and lifeless. Impossible. Jorex roared. No species can advance this quickly. You were planet-bound less than 3 centuries ago. That's your first lesson, Admiral, Nash replied. Never mistake time for progress. Your empire spent millennia perfecting the art of conventional warfare. We spent 3 centuries learning how to break convention itself. Now, shall we discuss terms of withdrawal, or would you like another demonstration? Jorich stood frozen, watching as his mighty fleet was systematically neutered by an enemy he couldn't even begin to comprehend. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before, the cold, creeping certainty that he was hopelessly, catastrophically outmatched. The black ships continued their dance around the diminished Narian fleet, a silent reminder that everything the Empire knew about warfare had just been rendered obsolete. Humanity hadn't just changed the game, they had rewritten its fundamental rules. In the aftermath of the first encounter, the Nexian War Council chamber aboard the Eternal Dominion thrummed with tension. Holographic displays showed the remaining fleet status, half their ships either missing or powerless, the rest surrounded by the enigmatic black vessels that seemed to defy physics itself. Strategic Director Lyra Voss watched the feed from her position aboard the Phantom Dawn, her dark eyes analyzing every subtle shift in the alien leader's body language. The Nexian's scaled skin flickered with colors that betrayed their emotional state, primarily shades of fear and rage. "They're preparing something," she murmured to Commander Nash, who stood beside her with hands clasped behind her back. "Their cultural database suggests they're physically incapable of accepting defeat without at least one more attempt at dominance." Nash nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Good. Let them try. Dr. Reed." Dr. Talon Reed looked up from his quantum interface station, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Ready to implement Protocol Mirage, Commander. Though I still think it's slightly excessive to alter local spacetime just to make a point." "Sometimes the best lessons require a dramatic teacher," Nash replied. "Lyra, open a channel to Fleet Admiral Jorex." The main display flickered to life, showing the Narian Admiral's command center. Jorex stood rigid, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the crystalline ship's internal lights. "Human," he spat the word like a curse, "your technological trickery does not change the fundamental truth. You are outnumbered and outgunned." "Numbers," Nash mused, "are such an interesting concept, aren't they? So absolute in mathematics, yet so fluid in reality." She gestured to Reed, who initiated the protocol with a single keystroke. Space rippled around the Phantom Dawn and its projected doubles. The black ships seemed to blur, their forms becoming indistinct before suddenly snapping back into focus. But now, where there had been hundreds of identical vessels, there was only emptiness. "What cowardice is this?" Jorex demanded. "You flee from." "Look up," Nash interrupted softly. The Nexazarian Admiral's four eyes widened as he did so. Through the Eternal Dominion's transparent crystal ceiling, a sight defied comprehension. The entire fleet now hung upside down relative to their previous position, with the Phantom Dawn and its doubles now below them, or oriented normally. "Impossible," High Commander Krell whispered. "You cannot reorient an entire battle fleet instantaneously. The gravitational forces alone would tear your ships apart." "If we actually move them," Dr. Reed cut in, his voice carrying the patient tone of a teacher explaining basic concepts. "But we didn't move anything. We simply renegotiated local space's opinion on which way is up." Before the Nexazarans could respond, their sensor arrays exploded with warnings. Each of their ships was now registering as being in exactly the same spatial location despite clearly being separated by kilometers of space. "Quantum superposition on a macro scale," Reed explained, genuine enthusiasm in his voice. "Your ships currently exist in a state where they simultaneously occupy the same space while maintaining their physical separation. I wouldn't fire any weapons if I were you. The quantum entanglement feedback would be messy." Lyra's analysis screens showed mounting stress indicators among the Nexian crew. "Their command structure is fracturing," she reported. "Secondary officers are beginning to question the Admiralty's judgment." Nash nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "Now, Admiral Jorex, let's discuss the true reason for this demonstration. We know your empire's history, centuries of expansion through military dominance. You encounter a new species, demonstrate overwhelming force, and offer them the choice between submission and annihilation." She leaned forward slightly, her voice hardening. "But you see, humanity has spent its entire history preparing for threats like you, not by building bigger ships or stronger weapons, but by fundamentally changing our understanding of what's possible. Your empire masters the art of war. She gestured at the impossible configuration of their fleets, we master reality itself." The quantum interface station chimed softly. Reed checked the readings and whistled. "They're attempting to launch their undetectable quantum torpedoes. Rather primitive design, actually. Want me to redirect them into their own launch tubes?" "No need for unnecessary destruction," Nash replied. Just convert them into harmless light particles. Let's not humiliate them more than necessary. The Nexian weapons fired, their secret superweapon expected to bypass any known defense. Instead, their ships were suddenly surrounded by beautiful multicolored auroras as their torpedoes transformed into pure light. "I'm detecting severe psychological strain in their command staff," Lyra reported, her screens showing cascading stress indicators. "Their entire military doctrine is based on being the superior force. Without that certainty, their command structure is beginning to collapse." Nash nodded slowly. "And that, Admiral Jorex, is the second lesson humanity has to teach. True power isn't about destruction, it's about control. Not just of weapons or ships or territory, but of reality itself. Now, shall we discuss terms of peace, or would you prefer another physics lesson?" The Nexian High Council's emergency session buzzed with barely contained panic. 12 of the Empire's most powerful leaders gathered in a secure quantum chamber deep within their homeworld's crystal spires, their scales shifting through anxious patterns of blue and gray as they watched the battle recordings for the 100th time. "Witchcraft," Supreme Counselor Ven hissed, his ceremonial robes rustling as he paced. "They violate the fundamental laws of physics themselves." High Commander Krell stood before them, his recent experience with the human fleet evident in his subdued posture. "With respect, honored council, what we witnessed was not witchcraft. It was science so advanced it appears to be magic. The humans don't break physical laws, they understand them so completely that they can rewrite them." Aboard the Phantom Dawn, Dr. Reed's quantum sensors picked up the encrypted transmission of the council session with ease. The ship's advanced systems translated the Nexian dialogue in real time as Commander Nash, Lyra Voss, and the senior staff observed. "Their entire civilization is built on the assumption of military superiority," Lyra noted, her fingers tracing patterns through holographic data streams. "The psychological impact of our technology isn't just damaging their military, it's threatening their cultural identity." Nash nodded, watching as the Nexian Council descended into arguing factions. Some advocated for immediate full-scale war, others for diplomatic surrender, and a desperate few suggested simply pretending humanity's space didn't exist. "Dr. Reed," she called. "Status of Protocol Labyrinth." Reed looked up from his quantum interface, where impossibly complex equations scrolled past. "Ready for implementation, Commander. Though I should note that creating a localized temporal causality loop around their entire home system is arguably an excessive response to their deliberations." "Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to demonstrate its futility," Nash replied. "Lyra, open a channel to their council chamber. Let's add some context to their debate." The council chamber's ornate walls suddenly shimmered, transforming into transparent view screens that showed the space around their homeworld. The counselors froze in mid-argument as they realized their entire star system was now surrounded by a shell of overlapping black ships, each one identical to the Phantom Dawn.
"Impossible," Ven sputtered. "Our planetary defense grid would have detected Your defense grid has been registering our presence for the past 3 standard weeks," Nash's voice filled the chamber. "Your systems interpreted our ships as background radiation because technically that's what we were at the time." The council erupted in confusion, but High Commander Krell stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. 3 weeks ago, but we only encountered your fleet yesterday." "Did you?" Lyra's voice joined the transmission, cool and analytical. "Or is that simply when we allowed you to perceive us? Time, like space, is more flexible than your civilization believes." Dr. Reed's quantum interface pulsed with new data. "They're attempting to activate their planetary shield network," he reported. "Rather ambitious design, actually. It would be quite effective against conventional weapons." "Show them why it's irrelevant," Nash ordered. Reed nodded and entered a complex sequence. The quantum field around the Nexian homeworld flickered briefly, and suddenly every building, vehicle, and piece of technology in their capital city simultaneously shifted 2 meters to the left, except for their occupants. The council chamber erupted in panic as its members found themselves standing in the walls of their own room. Before terror could fully take hold, everything snapped back to its original position. That, Nash explained to the shaken council, was a localized spatial shift affecting only artificial structures, executed with precision down to the atomic level. Your planetary shields, impressive as they are, operate on principles we mastered centuries ago. They're as relevant to our capabilities as a paper airplane is to an antimatter drive. "What do you want?" Supreme Counselor Ven demanded, his earlier arrogance replaced by desperate resignation. Want? Nash's voice carried a hint of genuine surprise. We don't want anything from you, counselor. This isn't an invasion or a conquest, it's an intervention. Your empire's policy of military expansion ends today not because we're stronger, but because we're showing you how meaningless the concept of military strength has become. Lyra's screens showed cascading changes in Narian communication patterns across their empire. Their colonial governors are starting to declare independence, she reported. The demonstration has gone viral across their networks. Their entire political structure is reorganizing in real time. And that, Nash addressed the council, is the true power humanity wields. We don't need to fire a single shot to fundamentally change the galaxy. Your empire is transforming not because we destroyed it, but because we showed its citizens a glimpse of what's possible beyond the limitations they accepted as absolute truth. High Commander Krell stepped forward again, his scales now showing the deep green of revelation. You knew this would happen. This was your plan from the beginning. The best victory, Nash replied softly, is the one that transforms an enemy into a student. The question is, honored council, are you ready to learn? The demonstration above the Nexian homeworld had triggered a cascade of events across their empire, but Fleet Admiral Jorex refused to accept defeat. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, now hung in the void between stars, surrounded by the remnants of his once mighty fleet. The Empire has stood for 10,000 years, he growled to his assembled commanders. We will not be undone by these upstart humans and their reality-bending tricks. The tactical display showed their remaining ships, 43 vessels out of the original 100, each carrying experimental weapons rushed from secret research facilities. Weapons designed to tear holes in space itself, to disrupt the quantum field that the humans seem to manipulate so easily. Aboard the Phantom Dawn, Dr. Reed watched the Nexian fleet's preparations with scientific curiosity. They're attempting to weaponize artificial quantum disruption, he reported, his hands dancing across his interface. Quite innovative, actually. In another century, they might have even succeeded. Commander Nash stood at the center of the bridge, her posture relaxed despite the imminent confrontation. Lyra, what's your assessment? Strategic Director Voss studied her behavioral analysis screens. Admiral Jorex represents the old guard of their empire. His personal identity is so intertwined with Nexian military supremacy that he's literally incapable of accepting the paradigm shift we represent. He'll force a final confrontation, even if it means destroying himself. Then perhaps it's time to show them what we've been holding back, Nash decided. Dr. Reed, initiate Eclipse Protocol. Reed's eyes widened slightly. Full implementation, that's rather dramatic, Commander. Sometimes, Nash replied, the kindest thing you can do is shatter someone's illusions completely. No fragments of false hope to cling to. Reed nodded and began the activation sequence. The Phantom Dawn's quantum core hummed to life, its sound more felt than heard. Around the ship, reality began to shift in subtle ways, light bending at impossible angles, space itself seeming to hold its breath. They're powering up their quantum disruptors, Lyra reported, targeting solutions locked on our position. Let them fire, Nash commanded. It's time they understood the true gap between our civilizations. The Nexian fleet launched their attack simultaneously, 43 beams of impossible energy lanced out, designed to tear apart the quantum field that the humans manipulated so easily. They converged on the Phantom Dawn's position in a display of destructive power that would have annihilated a small moon. The beams never reached their target. Instead, they stopped midway, frozen in space like streams of light turned to crystal. Then slowly they began to flow backward, returning to their source ships not as weapons but as pure information. What are you doing? Jorex's voice crackled across the command channel. Showing you the truth, Nash replied calmly. Your weapons were designed to disrupt quantum fields, but you see, Admiral, we don't manipulate quantum fields. We don't bend reality. We are reality's primary users, and it treats us as such. The frozen energy beams dissolved, and in their place something impossible appeared. The space around the Narian fleet seemed to turn inside out, revealing the underlying structure of reality itself, an infinite lattice of probability and potential that humans had learned to read and write like code. This is what we see, Dr. Reed explained, his voice carrying genuine enthusiasm. The universe isn't a set of unchangeable laws, it's a consensus reality, a collective agreement about how things should work. Humanity didn't develop better technology, we became reality's administrators. Through the quantum viewers of their ships, the Narian crews watched in awe and terror as the Phantom Dawn demonstrated its true nature. The black ship wasn't moving through space. It was editing it, rewriting the local parameters of existence with the casual ease of an artist adjusting their canvas. Your weapons, Nash continued, try to disrupt quantum fields, but we operate on a deeper level. We don't interact with the universe's physics, we invoke its source code. To demonstrate, she nodded to Reed, who entered a simple command. Instantly, every weapon on every Nexian ship transformed, not through destruction or technological manipulation, but through retroactive probability optimization. They had always been scientific instruments, had never been weapons at all. Reality itself now agreed on this point. Impossible, Jorex whispered, staring at readings that showed his mighty warships had never been warships at all. You cannot change the past, time is. Time is just another variable in the universe's equation, Reed explained. We didn't change your past, we simply helped reality recognize a more optimal probability stream. Your weapons were always meant to be scientific tools, we just helped the universe remember that fact. The display showed Nexian crew members across the fleet making discoveries with their new instruments, finding patterns in space they had never seen before, understanding aspects of the universe that their military focus had blinded them to. This, Nash said softly, is the true power humanity wields. Not destruction, not control, but optimization. We help reality become its best version of itself. The question is, Admiral Jorex, are you ready to become your best version too? The Great Hall of the Galactic Concordat sparkled with crystal and light as representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered to witness the unprecedented. At the center of the chamber, Commander Doya Nash stood before the assembled species, the sleek darkness of her uniform contrasting with the ethereal architecture surrounding her. Behind her, a holographic display showed the Phantom Dawn hovering in space, its mysterious form a reminder of how much the galaxy had changed in so short a time. Fleet Admiral Jorex, now serving as the representative of the transformed Narian coalition, stepped forward to address the assembly. His scales no longer showed the aggressive reds of his military past, but rather the deep blues of philosophical contemplation. 3 standard months ago, he began, his voice carrying across the hushed chamber, I led the most powerful fleet in known space to subjugate what I thought was a primitive species. Today I stand before you not as a conqueror but as a student, having learned that true power lies not in domination but in understanding. This is the truth of our universe, Nash continued. Not a battlefield to be conquered but a garden to be cultivated. Each species, each civilization represents a unique way of perceiving and interacting with reality. The Nexians mastered crystal harmonics, the Veil Collective perfected plasma dynamics, the Zarian decoded gravitational linguistics. Each achievement is a note in the universal symphony. As she spoke, Dr. Reed implemented the final stage of humanity's revelation. Throughout the galaxy, on every world represented in the assembly, reality itself seemed to soften, not breaking or changing, but becoming more accessible. Quantum barriers that had seemed impenetrable began to show their seams, not through human intervention, but through the universe recognizing its own potential for growth. We are not here to rule, Nash declared. We are here to teach, to share, to help each civilization find its own path to understanding reality's source code. The age of military empires is over, not because we defeated them, but because we've shown a better way. Jorex stepped forward again, his transformation from warrior to philosopher complete. I was there when the humans first demonstrated their power. I watched them rewrite probabilities, edit causality, optimize reality itself. But their greatest achievement wasn't in showing us what they could do to us. It was in showing us what we could become. The assembly hall hummed with rising energy as representatives began to perceive the changes in their own perceptions. Their species' unique talents beginning to resonate with the quantum framework humanity had revealed. The universe is not a zero-sum game, Nash concluded. Reality itself wants to evolve, to optimize, to become more than it is. Humanity didn't conquer this power, we simply learned to ask the universe for permission to help it grow. And now we extend that same invitation to all of you. Dr. Reed's quantum readings showed cascading breakthroughs occurring across the galaxy as civilizations began to understand their own unique relationships with reality. The Nexian crystal ships started resonating with quantum harmonies they had never detected before. Veil collective plasma drives began achieving efficiencies that should have been impossible. Zarian gravity wells started communicating in ways their scientists had only dreamed of. The true power of humanity, Lyra observed, watching the transformation spread, wasn't in mastering reality. It was in teaching reality to recognize its own potential through us. As the assembly erupted in excited discussion, Nash shared a quiet smile with her crew. The galaxy was entering a new age, not through conquest or domination, but through revelation and growth. Humanity hadn't just changed the rules of the game, they had shown that it never needed to be a game at all. The Phantom Dawn hung silently in space, its dark surface reflecting the light of countless stars. Within its quantum-enhanced hull, reality itself seemed to hum with satisfaction, as if appreciating the role it had played in teaching the galaxy a simple truth. The greatest power lies not in controlling existence but in helping it evolve.